Hi Vineyards members, today we're going to talk about putting, and more importantly we're going to talk about the consistency of your strokes. I have a really good inexpensive training aid that you can work on at home, and you can also take it when we get back on the golf course into your practice on the putting green right outside. What it is, it's an alignment stick. Now an alignment stick is a great tool for a number of different drills you can use. But for this case, we're just going to talk about how we can maintain connection in our putting, eliminate some of the overuse of the hands, and also to promote more of a pendulum stroke and ultimately more consistency in your stroke. The way we're going to do it is we're going to take our putter, and hopefully your putter is the correct length for you. We can talk about that as well as the season gets underway. And we want to put the alignment stick right on the bottom flange of the putter. Okay. Now, when we have that on the bottom flange, we want to just rest it up against our sternum, okay? So you can see now that I create two lines with the alignment stick and my putter shaft, and my hands sit right underneath that alignment stick. Now, for those of you that are a little shorter, you can cut down the alignment stick to fit a little bit more comfortably. And for those of you that are taller, you can actually get oversized alignment sticks and then cut the size. So once you have your alignment stick the right size for you, you can use this drill forever. So what we want to try to make sure we do is, we all know that a pendulum stroke is something that is drummed home when people talk about putting. You know, you want to swing a pendulum, pendulum, pendulum. And you notice how a pendulum has a central pivot point, usually your sternum. And when the pendulum goes back and forth, it creates an equal distance on the backswing and the follow through. And that's what you want to do on a putting stroke. You want to make sure that you have equal distances back and through, and you want a central pivot point. So when I get myself set up, if I do it correctly, you notice how I rock my shoulders. I start to get that sternum, keeping it in the middle, because my lowest point of the putting arc will be where the ball is. And then I keep my hands very connected all the way through so that everything moves together. You notice how my forearms and my elbows are in. You notice how this stays on my sternum. I don't start shifting, okay? And also my hands don't start moving. Because if my hands move, I'm going to create inconsistency because my hands are going to be very inconsistent. I'm going to change where my putter face is set all the way through the stroke. I might change the speed of my putt. I might change the plane of my putt. If you keep it in the middle, you can see how I really keep a consistent length back and through. I can keep a consistent face to path, which means that the club face always stays square throughout the stroke. Because there is an arc to the stroke. When you go back and through, it does go a little inside, goes back to square and goes through. And if you can keep everything connected, you're going to be very consistent when it comes to your putting. Obviously, we need to make sure we get the distance right and the starting line right. But if you're putting a consistent stroke on the putter, it's going to help you get a lot more feedback of your putting so that you're doing everything the same. And that's pretty much the aim of the game of putting, or the whole golf game. We want to be consistent on our movements. So I would encourage you to do this, okay? For those of you that set up with a forward press, just be mindful when you do that you have enough loft on your putter. Most putters have between 3.5 to 4 degrees of loft on them. Now if you push the hands forwards, you're now going to have negative loft, and that's going to affect how the putter starts and also the consistency of the roll. Ideally, I like the hands directly below your sternum so that the shaft is more up and down, so you have the true loft of the putter, because you do need a little bit of loft on the putter. And if we can do this and keep everything in a pendulum motion, keeping it the same speed going back and through, and obviously not decelerating, it's going to help you be very consistent. And it's also going to expose some of your weaknesses. So for those of you that get that putter down, they try to use a little bit of their hands, notice how that face now, because you're not have everything in line, is now pointing left. For those of you that start to sort of lead with your hands, you notice now the face is open more. If you keep that line in place, the putter face is going to be pointing exactly where you're aiming at address. Okay, so try to do this, do it at home. Do it when you come back to the golf course. And you'll notice how every time you do that, you're going to create consistency with face to path. You're going to create consistency with keeping everything connected and swinging in unison. And it's going to lead to more consistency in your putting stroke. And ultimately, that's going to lead to lower scores for you for this upcoming season. I hope everyone's still staying safe, and we really look forward to seeing you soon.